Every now and then I take a look through my book, The Wainwrights in Colour, and every page I turn reminds me of a day that I've been out on the fells, gaining the references that I needed for this 10-year project. And just looking through one page here of High Street reminds me of a day that I went out several years ago, in fact, on a winter's day to catch one picture in particular. And it was actually this picture on page 14 of High Street in Wainwright's pictorial guide, and it's of a snowy scene of High Street for Mardale Head. And I had a day out onto the fell specifically to get this picture. Now, at the time, I actually didn't take video film, I just took still photographs. So what I've done is I've made a film from those photographs describing the route that I took. It was a great day out, about 13.5 miles in all, but I was able to not only get the references that I needed, plenty of them, 10 in fact, but also I covered 9 Wainwright Fells. And this is the film. I set off from home early on this winter's day as I wanted to make the most of the daylight. As I got up to the top end of Haweswater, near Mardale Head, the light was just touching the snow-capped mountain tops. I parked up at the small lay-by near Low Loup. Now, I could have gone on to Mardale Head car park at the top of the valley, but the small bit of road working would either have to be done at the start or the finish of the walk anyway, so it didn't really matter. My planned route was to be done in a clockwise direction and would take in 9 Wainwright Fells. As I began the ascent of the ridge, the sun was just hitting the top of Kidsty Pike across the stretch of Haweswater. The route passes quite close to this big boulder, which Wainwright called Hollow Stone in his description of Bramstree. It was certainly a beautiful morning to be out. And after a little bit of ascent, I came across the first location for this view of High Street. I knew by continuing up the ridge I would come across 2 more reference points. I just didn't know exactly where they were. The view I needed of Mardale Head came first, and shortly after that was the view I needed of High Street. The path up the ridge is indistinct, and even worse under a full coat of snow. But it wasn't long before we reached the top of Crag Pike. There are 2 cairns here now, whereas in Wainwright's day, when he was writing the pictorial guides, there was only 1. The lower cairn has a fine backdrop of Sellside Pike, and beyond, the highest part of the North Pennines, Cross Fell. From the cairns, it's an easy walk up to the summit plateau of Bramstree. Today, the concrete ring, which marks the summit, was just covered with a dusting of snow. The nearby gate and wall was actually covered with a drift. From here, it's a steep descent towards Gatesgarth Pass. Over to the right are the crags of Harter Fell. That's where we're heading next. The gate marks the track of Gatesgarth Pass. And from here we ascend up to Harter Fell. You'll pass by this large boulder. It also featured in Wainwright's pictorial guide, and it's got a superb view down on towards Haweswater. And then we're at the top of Harter Fell. The cairn's easily identified in normal conditions because it's a mixture of stone and tangled bits of ironwork from the old fence. Now we proceeded down to Nambeal Pass. The views are stunning, especially down into the Kentmere Valley, with the Ilbel Ridge and the Coniston Fells beyond. Nambeal Pass is easily recognised. It's got this square shelter built right in the middle of the pass. The path beyond goes up to Mardale Head, and that's our route. What fantastic views in these conditions, looking down to the frozen surface of Smallwater and then the Mardale Head Valley beyond. Behind us is the ridge we've just descended from Harter Fell. Nambeal Pass is hidden in the dip. Now from the summit of Mardale Head, I actually had to head down towards Peart Crag to get this single view that I needed. It took quite a while to find the exact rocks in the foreground which matched up the drawing that Wainwright had produced in the pictorial guide. Fortunately, because of the snow cover today, I was still able to see them. I stood on the exact spot, took the photograph to produce the painting that I needed for the Wainwrights in colour. Once I'd obtained the reference, I reascended back up to the ridge and then followed the path round towards Thornthwaite Crag. To the south, the views down into the Kentmere Valley were just spectacular. It was a stunning day, and the tall beacon at Thornthwaite Crag was caked in ice. I wasn't the only one there enjoying this spectacular scenery and the cracking conditions. But we had to head on. We followed the Roman road for a bit to get another reference, which was the view down towards Hayeswater. And then a simple stroll along to the summit of High Street. High Street summit is marked by this triangulation column. It's a little bit unusual because there's very few on the Lakeland Fells which are actually made out of concrete, most made out of local stone. We left the summit and headed towards the top of Longstyle Ridge, where I needed another reference. After a little bit of detective work, I was able to line up the view exactly, took the photograph from which I produced the painting. Moving a little further to the north, I was able to get another reference, the view of Rough Crag. Below us, Bleewater looked more like an ice rink. From here we headed down to the top of Short Stile. The small cairn has got a lovely view back up to the top of High Street. And to the left, you get a view of the full length of the Longstyle Ridge. From here, we headed on towards the Knot. We bypass this crag, known as Tuppenny Crag. The path goes round to the left. From here, there's a great view of the Hayeswater Reservoir, and then at the top is Thornthwaite Crag, where we've just been. In the other direction, you look down into the Patterdale Valley and the Eastern Fells beyond. Superb views. Soon we're at the top of the Knot, and Bailey bags the summit. From the Knot to the top of Rampskill Head, I just took a direct route up the snow-covered slopes. There was no path here, but it didn't take long. By walking a short distance north from the summit, there's a great view down into Rampskill. But we weren't going to hang around here. I headed across eastward towards the summit of Kidsty Pike. The summit cairn is perched right on the edge of the crags. That's another fell ticked off. From here, headed north onto the very top of High Raise. Another snow-caked cairn in the sparkling sunshine. What a wonderful day to be out. High Raise done, we headed northeast across plain open ground towards the ancient cairn on Low Raise. I did need a reference point here, but it just wasn't worthwhile taking the photograph as there was just too much snow. I wanted to see more of the cairn, so I'd come back on another day. The next part of my route was a little bit off track. I stuck to the ridge, keeping Welter Crags on my left. Heading on down the ridge, I couldn't resist taking pictures. These old ruins are dotted around the landscape and they make an interesting foreground subject for a painting or a photograph. I was heading down for the ancient British fort on top of Castle Crag. If you're going to build a fort anywhere, you may as well build it on a place like this. You could see anyone coming from a distance. There's faint signs of a wall around the edge of the fort, but it is marked by a small cairn at the top. This again was another reference that I needed for a painting. A movement off to the left caught my eye, and it was a small herd of deer watching us from the rocks. Beautiful to see. There's actually quite a few red deer in this area. You just have to be quiet, careful, and keep an eye out for them. They blend in well into the background. All the time as I descended, I was keeping an eye out for this view. Wainwright doesn't say exactly where it is on the ridge, but once I had everything lined up, I took my reference photograph for the painting that I need of the view of Brandstree. There was now a nice glow in the air as it was getting on to be late afternoon. At the bottom of the ridge, we crossed Riggindale Beck using the footbridge and then continued round towards Mardale Head. Following the path round the rig, I was looking for the view that I needed of Harter Fell. This would have been my last reference of the day. And as I carried on round the path, there it was, all lined up, ready for me to take the photo. And that's what I did, and took the picture to do this watercolour, the view of Harter Fell. Once I'd obtained that last reference, all I had to do was carry on walking round the good path, round the top end of Haweswater Reservoir, past the Mardale Head car park and back to where I'd parked my car. Now, never before in any of my videos have I included the paintings from the Wainwrights in colour, but hopefully it will give you an insight of how I went about getting all of the 1500 paintings from the 7 pictorial guides and included them in the Wainwrights in colour project. I appreciate that some of you have already got a copy of this book. If you haven't and you'd like a copy, remember there are only ever 5,000 copies, and each one I have personally signed and numbered. You can go to the web address at the end of this film, or at the bottom of the description on the YouTube film there are links to my website where you can obtain a copy. If you've liked the film, do click the like button, and even better, subscribe to my channel where you'll be updated with my future postings of videos. But thanks for watching.